tell, do you see the road? I'm out to my soul into the sides whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect. Do it.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the fifth part of What If BEN10 Meets Powerpuff Girls. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of man of cartoons on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. An hour ago, the universe Ben got to new lost two worlds. The first was its version of Earth and another was a world once known as Fairy World. Any trace of them were nothing but some rock debris and pink clouds that hovered in space. So countless lives and properties were destroyed by Nefarious. The heroes that tried to stop him failed and died because of it. Even the strongest, BEN10, failed to beat the all-powerful being. He was last seen on Fairy World before it was destroyed by Nefarious. Normally, he should be considered dead, but yet the hero stood among the debris as a humanoid alien whose entire body is solid black, excluding his hands, which are white. His body had tiny white star-like spots all over his body, giving him the appearance of a starry sky. Also his eyes were green and pupilless, and his forehead bears 3 horns. Inside a pocket dimension made by the alien were 2 green heads hovering in what looks like its version of space. Ben hovered with them, but his back was against them as he just sat there with his legs held to his knees. His face only contained sadness as he watched an image of Nefarious getting into his universe. Are we gonna stay here and do nothing? Watching this thing is getting really boring. One of them to break the talks was a being known as Bellicus. His mood clearly showed how upset he was about the silence. Now, Bellicus, don't be so harsh to him. He's about to lose everyone he cared about after all. The other head that replied to him was a being known as Serena. Clearly she understood how saddening things were, but yet didn't consider how insensitive she sounded. So what? Bellicus objected. He changed into Alien X on his own accord. If he didn't need us, he shouldn't have done it in the first place. Bellicus! Serena yelled. Enough! Both beings ceased, as their attention was drawn to the young hero in front of them. He had his head turned to them, with tears building up to come out. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to change to Alien X? Well, I didn't. You happy now? It's the freaking Omnitrix that did this. I already gave up. I can't do anything right. I watched my friend die right in front of me. I went off to have fun while my other friends died while trying to protect their world. In fact, one of them tried to save the world even though she isn't from this universe. So do you see how pathetic I am? Can you? A moment of silence passed by for 3 of them, as they just stayed. The only sound that could be heard was Ben crying. Bellicus and Serena just watched him till the first one broke the silence. I see you really are pathetic. How the Omnitrix got to you was a mistake altogether. Bellicus. That's enough. Serena snapped at the other being. No, it isn't. BEN10, you are a disgrace. While you mop and cry, someone is eradicating everything you hold dear. I don't care for useless human lives, but his actions spat on our supremacy over thousands of universes. The Tennyson I knew last time tried to convince me to recreate another universe that was destroyed by another foolish being named Trigon. You and the girl named Raven didn't give up, even though that universe was destroyed. But just because 2 planets are gone, you cry like we can't do anything. Don't you dare insult Alien X. Just as he said that, the image in front of them became brighter and caught Ben's attention. It showed Nefarious holding his parents captive while fighting the plumbers and the Saturdays. So tell me, Tennyson. Are you going to cry and pity yourself? Are you going to tarnish Alien X's supremacy just because of some tries? Are you going to let many lives go to waste? No, no. What? Speak up. I can't hear such feeble talks. No, I won't. Ben cried out with renewed purpose. Gone was all the sadness Ben felt. He felt new purpose come to his left. It surprised Serena very much that Bellicus was such a motivational speaker, even though it was mean and was for his personal reasons. Excellent. Now let's show Nefarious what Alien X can do. Ben thought a second, before shaking his head. He turned to the two beings and spoke, I agree, but that is mistake. Why use one alien when we can use all of them at any command? At first both Serena and Bellicus were confused, until Ben smirked and winked at them. Both of them nodded in understanding and said, motion carried. Present time. Automix was still held in defeat. He has long stopped screaming since he had to endure so much pain. For a second it actually made Nefarious think that the hero was dead, but of course he didn't. The energy he used were deadly to kill any being that was below him. The Automix form was something he considered weaker, even though it was the only being to actually hit him. All almost seems lost for the young alien hero. However, the situation changed when missiles from above hit the water whips holding Automix and destroyed them instantly. Automix was instantly free, but was in so shape to actually float. Instead, he fell right into the water. The sudden action angered Nefarious. The super being growled angrily and looked at the direction the missiles came from. Looking up, he found the Saturday airship hovering above him. The supervillain scowled in anger and enhanced his vision to look into the flying machine. His expression became worse, once he saw the Tennysons inside along with the rest of the Saturdays. The villain grew so angry that he decided to destroy them right away. He held his hand at the airship and had it covered with a green aura. Everyone inside found the airship was unable to move. Then to make it worse, the whole place began to freeze up. Doc Saturday tried to get the airship moving. However, as much as he tried, the controls were frozen instantly. It didn't take long before they heard Nefarious laugh insanely as the whole airship began to crash. Unfortunately, there was nothing they could do but scream, as the ship descended close to the waters. However, suddenly, the airship stopped in the air. The Tennysons and Saturdays had their respective families held up together, until they noticed they weren't crashing. Confused, they found the airship returning back to its normal state. All the ice on the body and controls instantly vanished. What just happened? Zack asked. Gwen couldn't help but smile. Even though it may seem unlikely in the past, one certain hero came to mind. Ben just happened. Gwen replied with a pleased voice. Meanwhile. Tennyson. Nefarious snarled in pure rage. The supervillain had used his enhanced hearing to listen to them. It filled him with so much anger that he let out a monstrous growl that could be compared to a dragon. Then he began to blast energy blasts into different parts of the sea. Come on out, Tennyson. Come out and die. The more he shouted, the angrier he became as he shot more energy blasts. The collision with such blasts caused huge amount of water to shoot out into the air. It went so high that some of it hit the airship. Doc. Saturday rushed to the controls, along with his wife who handled the other. Even though she had a cast on her right arm and left leg, she was still able to do what she could. We have to get to higher ground. Drew quickly said as she held on to the controls. The airship was successful to go higher, but it still retained some damages. Gwen couldn't help but keep her eyes on a certain part of the skies. Grandpa Max noticed and looked, but only to find nothing. He nudged Gwen a bit, which got her to look back at her grandfather. What are you looking at, Gwen? Grandpa Max asked. I don't know how to explain it. I just have the feeling that someone very familiar is coming. What? Everyone turned over to her. Suddenly, a twinkle of green light came from the exact spot Gwen indicated. A fast green blur flew right past them and headed straight to Nefarious. Doc Saturday quickly had the place on scene, before everyone then gasped at who it was. The person on the screen was none other than Ben. What was most shocking was the fact that he wasn't in any alien form. The only thing different about him was that his jacket was black and longer with white twinkling stars. His pants were black with the same stars, along with fingerless gloves which just happened to be wearing. However, what was the most shocking was that the Omnitrix symbol was on his chest. Nefarious! Ben cried out in a loud voice. The supervillain looked up in surprise. He saw Ben coming really fast, and quickly put up an ecto shield. Ben drew back his fist and came close to the shield. "I'm taking you down." Just as Ben said that, he blew a punch so hard that it broke the shield and sent Nefarious flying to the sea. The villain was able to come a halt, before looking up at the hero, who was now making a straight flight for him. "Is that so, Tennyson? Clearly, you've learned nothing." Nefarious scowled. The supervillain wasted no time to send 4 duplicates at Ben. All 4 of them spread out and unleashed very dark fire blasts from their mouths. The young hero didn't seem bothered, as he approached them. He easily punched the first blast and swung his leg at the 3 blasts. Instantly, a huge white sun ice wave flew out of his leg and destroyed them. Nefarious growled angrily. Clearly, he now knew how powerful Ben was. It irritated the villain so much that he ordered his duplicates at Ben. The first one appeared right in front of the hero and slashed its claws at the hero. However, the hero caught his huge hand with his one hand and kicked it in the chin. The duplicate instantly was sent flying away. Another duplicate came at Ben's side. It tried to surprise the hero, with a kick, but Ben grabbed it with both hands and swung it against the third duplicate. Both duplicates dissipated into air, leaving the last one floating. The last duplicate let out a huge fiery blast in an effort to protect his prime self. Its attack was so bright that the Tennysons were unsure if their dear Ben would survive. But the boys surprised them by flying right through the fire and punching the duplicate away. Nefarious was shocked at what happened, but how? "Shut it!" Ben yelled angrily. The young hero then continued, "I'm going to see my family again. I'm gonna avenge every single living thing you murdered. And I'm going to achieve all that by kicking you butt." "Oh really?" Nefarious couldn't help but smirk. The supervillain snapped his hand. It didn't take for several water whips to fly at him from different directions. The speed they came were so fast that they surprised the people watching. However, what was more amazing was how Ben maneuvered around them with a blinding speed. In a matter of a minute, he was already in front of Nefarious. But impossible," Nefarious said shockingly. Ben didn't seem bothered. The moment Nefarious spoke, Ben charged up his fist with an unknown green energy. His face was dead serious, with a scowl that could kill. "Iron Fist," Ben said, "of the Supreme Dragon." Upon speaking, Ben threw that ultimate punch right at Nefarious's face. The impact of it was so powerful that it sent a sonic wave that traveled through the skies, and several miles away. The airship shook violently, but luckily didn't fall. Nefarious received the worst of the hit, as he was sent flying right through the air. He suddenly broke through an invisible barrier and was gone. Everyone watching were really surprised and shocked at what just happened. Did Ben just do that? Drew Saturday shuddered a bit. "Yeah, I did." For a second, everyone were taken aback from the sudden voice. However, it didn't take long for the owner to reveal himself. The young hero that just beat Nefarious, appeared right in front of everyone with a big smirk on his face. The young teen had his arms crossed over his chest, as he looked down on everyone. Once his eyes lay on his family, he flew over to them and hugged his dad. Ben's dad was a bit caught off guard, but he didn't ignore his son. He hugged his son tightly, along with his wife, niece and dad. All of them shared a moment until they separated. It was at that precise time that Gwen punched her cousin at the shoulder. The teen failed to notice it, but somehow he still turned to his cousin. "Hey, Gwen, I'm guessing you're mad at me, huh?" "Mad? More like worried, Ben. The red-haired said angrily. Grandpa, your parents and I have been looking for you ever since you ran off. The last I saw you was in some sewer, looking depressed. Now you're involved with some mega supervillain. Yeah, sorry about that. Ben frowned, as he looked away. Gwen's eyes began to tear up in tears. The rest of the family just watched as she hugged her cousin in a slightly tight embrace. The young hero was surprised at first, his cousin has never shown this much affection this much. However, rather than ignore it, Ben hugged her back. Both cousins stayed like that for a moment, before letting go. Gwen cleaned the tears off and smiled. You're still a doofus, you know that. And you're still the same old dweeb I know and bicker. Ben chuckled. Wow, you know what bicker means. Have you actually been learning, Ben? Hey. The fun juvenile moment was ruined right away. Zach interrupted them. Guys, I get the whole family thing, but we're still confused about that monster space thing that almost killed us. The two siblings turned from each other. Ben was the first to speak, his name is Nefarious. We've had a few battles through the multiverse, with me kicking his butt of course well sometimes anyway. Multiverse? Zach asked, confused. Yes, Zach. Drew answered, the multiverse is a theory, well reality now I guess, that states they are other worlds with different possibilities of many different universes. Okay, and you went through these universes, how? Zach asked Ben. Ben seemed so uneasy. It brought back an old memory, but he knew he had to explain. His family was there, and deserved an explanation. When I ran away I considered heading back home when suddenly a dumb portal appeared and got me. From there I got involved with that nefarious guy in a world of ghosts, another world with other superheroes, another with Ninja Turtles, I know it's crazy, and a world of more heroes. Wow, you went through a lot, Ben. Carl, Ben's dad, said in a sad tone. He then smiled a bit, at least you're back home again and don't have to go through any of that again. Oh, Ben said hesitantly. Gwen knew right away about her cousin. In fact everyone knew. It was hard for any of them to say, but Sandra said it. You're not staying, are you, Ben? The young blonde frowned sadly. Yeah, Ben replied with a nod. I took Nefarious out of our universe, so you guys won't get caught up in the battle. He'll cause more harm and danger to other universes, and ours, if I don't go back. Well, that's what I and the two voices in my head told me. Voices? Gwen asked, confused. Ben sighed. Look into my eyes and tell me what you see. Gwen was confused, but did it anyway. Once she did, she jumped back and was almost shaken. What the heck is that, Ben? Well, that's Serena and Bellicus. The other guy is the real me. I'm actually using an alien I call Alien X. Nefarious likely told you that he killed me. But I survived by turning into this alien, except that it looks a lot different than now. Anyway, long story short, this alien grants a lot of stuff, and I had it turn me to something I call Ultimate Ben. Wow! That's so cool! Zach exclaimed. Yeah, so you get why I have to go now, right? Everyone was silent from that moment. The Tennysons exchanged different looks, like they were actually deciding if Ben should go. They knew they can't stop him, but knowing the boy very well, it would be impossible to tell him no. Finally, it was Grandpa Max that broke the silence. He got on one knee and looked into his grandson's eyes. He could see the place Gwen saw, but wasn't so freaked out about it. Ben, we understand now. Honestly, we didn't think you would get this far to be a hero. Saving the multiverse is something large to do, so I suspect you weren't alone in it, and I have faith you won't be. Grandpa's right. Gwen added. Even though we can't go with you, we'll always be there in heart. I'm with them. Sandra said, as she pet her son's hair. Just be careful out there. I'll have my favorite cooking waiting for you. Ben chuckled a bit. He was really glad that his family was accepting it. Now was his dad's turn. Ben, honestly, I don't think you should go. That guy almost killed you. Ben almost felt shaken. He wouldn't feel right if his dad was against him leaving. However, the man continued. But I know how important this is to you. So please be careful and come back home. If you encounter any other heroes out there, be sure to let them help you, okay? A team is much stronger than a single force alone. Okay. Ben smiled and nodded. Then he looked at everyone. Thanks for accepting this, everyone. I failed a few friends of mine, but I won't fail you. I promise on my very last breath that Nefarious is going down. Everyone mentally agreed on that, along with a visible nod. They had a family hug, before stepping back and allowing Ben to stand. The young teen then became intangible and looked at Zack. Watch over my cousin for me. But don't get any ideas. She's in love with Kevin. What? Zack and Gwen blushed. Ben laughed as he formed a ghostly tail and began to fly up. Gwen shouted his name angrily, but the teen didn't mind. I love you all. I'll be back. With that said, Ben flew off as fast as he could to the crack in the dimensional barrier. He flew right in, with a determined voice. I'm coming for you, Nefarious. Prepare to pay for everything you have done. The crack immediately fixed itself, with Ben heading to yet another dimension. The rest of his family, and the Saturdays, looked at the screen displaying where the crack once was originally. Gwen sighed and smiled. You better get back, doofus. Everything had gone by so soon and fast. At least that's what Ben thought while he flew through the crack he created. His ambition and determination was high, along with the will to defeat Nefarious once and for all. So with his powers, he flew right through the crack and sealed it simultaneously. When Ben arrived at the other side, he found himself somewhere familiar. There was no ground or skies, but the place was a huge and endless space. Everywhere he looked contained blue energy bodies contacting countless universes. Ha, I'm back here again, Ben thought to himself. However, it didn't lack. Something with much speed dashed against the young hero and held him in a huge hand. Ben was taken aback by the action until he looked at the source of the attack, revealing it to be Nefarious, who had him trapped. You! Ben cried out angrily. Already, his body began to radiate green energy as he was held by the supervillain. So with a loud cry, the energy built up. Let me go. A huge explosion occurred afterwards, sending Nefarious back a bit. Such a blast didn't affect him mostly, so he had his attention back at where Ben was located. But what he saw next was quite remarkable. The boy he had fought in different universes hovered in the air, with multicolor energy particle floating all around him. Nefarious could say he was surprised, but at the same time he was thrilled. As for Ben, the boy seemed to be in a whole new power level. He looked straight at Nefarious and tightened his fists, causing a colorful aura to surround it. Now, that my family is out of the way, he said, and his eyes began green. Now that no one is around to get hurt, his voice went high from there. I can go all out. Suddenly, Nefarious got punched in the face. Such an attack came from Ben, who had rushed at him so fast that the supervillain hadn't seen it coming. But even then, the fist still stayed on to Nefarious's face as Ben sent both him and the supervillain flying. Their speed was so much that they broke the speed of light before Ben added more strength into his fist, sending the villain flying away. The attack was impressive, but it wasn't enough to beat Nefarious. Once he was thrown away by Ben, he came to a total stop. But suddenly, Ben turned himself upside down, while coming at the supervillain before delivering a golden-colored fire down on his head. A loud grunt emerged from Nefarious, who was sent downwards through the open endless space. Ben's attack had been very effective. It sent the supervillain going downwards till he came to a total stop by releasing a burst of green ecto-energy. But suddenly, a huge single strike of green electricity suddenly struck Nefarious, causing him to scream loudly as he felt an unbearable body course through his whole body. Following the attack, Nefarious didn't stand much of a chance. Ben beat him at every chance he had, giving the supervillain no chance to attack. His power seemed to be unlimited, which was actually to brag about and unconfirmed. But Ben's true power came from his deep anger, sadness and motivation to take down Nefarious once and for all. "You took them from me," the boy cried out. The speed he possessed allowed him to rush at Nefarious and punch him at the chest, sending him flying backwards. Every emotion Ben felt built up as memories of the friends he lost came to mind. Each memory the superhero had weren't excluded of his family. Remembering those who died, from Bunny, Danny and Timmy were fresh in his mind. However, what hurt the most was the fact that he had the ability to see what happened to them to the very point they died and remember how they felt then. Their pain and hopelessness burnt in his heart, leading him to fight Nefarious further than he ever had. Another powerful punch came from Ben, who had Nefarious flying backwards this time. The memories of his friends were fresh in his hands as he powered his fists with unbelievable energy. So with both hands charged with unknown cosmic powers, he flew right above Nefarious while holding up both hands. "Now just die." Both combined attacks descended on Nefarious, who took the attacks hard. A massive explosion in comparison to that of a supernova traveled through the endless space around them. However, when it all cleared, Nefarious flew at Ben and shot a tangible energy-made hand that grabbed Ben's whole body. "Ha! Now let's see you get out of that," the supervillain said confidently. Ben made a few grunting sounds, but it didn't last. Colors of different electric energy sparked around his body as he soon broke out of the hold on it. Such power surprised Nefarious, who flew back in shock. However, Ben didn't stop there. He took a deep breath, allowing him to suck in the very particles such as atoms into his stomach. "Supreme Dragon," Ben said while taking everything in. Then once he was down, he let it all out. Omega Roar. Such an immense amount of power poured out of Ben and headed straight for Nefarious. Its size was beyond the supervillain's huge height, and made it impossible to escape. So all he could do was stand there and be engulfed by the blast, which got him and kept going through the endless space in a straight line. Ben's power felt unlimited, but he had to stop his attack. Though it didn't take much out of him, the hero panted a bit as he kept his eyes forward. Smoke or clouds were impossible to make in the endless unknown space dimension, so it was easy that nothing stood in the path of Ben's attack. The young hero finally felt at peace. His foe didn't survive the attack, meaning he had avenged his fallen friends. The hero didn't give it much thought though, thinking his blast had finished Nefarious off. It's over. He breathed in relief. Space was very quiet around Ben while he floated there. His thoughts were in complete silence until he heard something, which was odd. If it came to a normal human, Ben wouldn't have heard about it. However, Ultimate Ben, a form with the combination of Alien X and his other available aliens, could hear far more vastly than most powerful being. Once Ben heard the sound, his eyes flew wide. He knew the sound of it and instantly got furious. The sound came far, but Ben already had himself zooming to the direction. His increased level of power and determination made him so fast that he got to the source of the sound, Nefarious. The speed also let out a loud boom that caught the supervillain's attention. Between the little time Ben closed the gap, Nefarious turned back in shock. He looked shocked at the hero before disappearing out of sight. He did just in time though, as Ben came with a swing kick that sent an air blast so powerful that it would cut him down in seconds. However, the fact Nefarious escaped annoyed the teen as his eyes became bright neon green. "Where are you, Nefarious?" Ben said loudly. With his enhanced eyes, he could look all around him and further than anyone could as well as seek anyone invisible. It didn't take him long to spot the villain flying away in top speed. "There you are," he said. Upon sighting his alien foe, Ben didn't waste a millisecond to charge. He came as fast as he could and rammed right at Nefarious. The supervillain didn't have a chance to react, nor did he still get it as Ben shot an electric WHP, courtesy of Astrodactyl, and pulled him right back. "This is for everything you've done," Ben shouted out angrily. It would seem that Nefarious's end had reached. Ben made this possible while powering up his right fist with the combo of every alien strength he had. The fist became bright with multiple colors until it became pure white to vanquish the foe. However, he didn't get to use such a over-devastating attack on Nefarious due to the supervillain's quickness. Ben had all the power that people could dream of. But he didn't count on Nefarious escaping by disappearing once again. His quick attack avoided Ultimate Ben's blow, but not the outcome of it. Ultimate Ben had been so determined to punch the living out of Nefarious that he sent a blow so powerful that it created a wave that hit Nefarious once he appeared some feet away. However, it didn't stop there for Nefarious. Ultimate Ben's punch also created a rift in the space that flung Nefarious right into it. The fact that his enemy was flung into it uncontrollably made Ben chase after the villain, causing the rift to close once he went right in. Another day on Earth felt normal for its occupants. But it didn't mean it didn't have its own share of weirdness, if that word fits it. Over 5 years, the Earth had a worldwide problem called EVOs, exponentially variegated organism, that was caused by an explosion that spread all over the Earth, turning people with something called nanites into monsters. Since that time, a lot had happened on the Earth before it was cured by its hero, Rex Salazar. How he did was somewhat unknown to the public. But the few who knew were the organization Providence and those trusted to know it. Today, it was usual normalcy for Rex Salazar as he walked through one of the many hallways of Providence HQ with his friends. These friends consisted of his best friend Noah, his girlfriend Cersei, Iker, Tuck, Skywydd and Cricket, who are human again. "Are you sure we should be going this way, Rex?" asked Noah with an annoyed face. Rex thought about it with a fake expression and shrugged. "Sure, why not? We're just going for a ride." "Yeah, like that one time with our dates," Noah muttered. "You had a date?" asked Circle with mild shock. She furrowed her eyes at her boyfriend with her hands on her peach. "You never told me you went on a date once." Yeah," Rex said nervously. There was stuff and... Thinking of an excuse didn't come easy for Rex. His expression was funny to watch, especially to Cersei as she met up with him and kissed him on the cheek. It surprised Rex, which only made the girl to giggle. "I was kidding, Rex," she said. "Ugh. You guys should get a room," interrupted Skywydd. When everyone turned to him, he had his finger at his tongue while making a GG expression. It was long after that he received a blow to the back by Cricket. "Don't act so immature," Cricket told him strictly. "Thank you, Cricket," Rex said with a short smug. He then turned his attention from them to their destination. "We're almost there, guys. Wait until you see it." To be told, nobody knew what else Rex had in mind other than a simple ride. But the fact that Noah has been with Rex more than the others during the Nanites events, he had a strong feeling it would be something trouble. In fact, while everyone walked away, he stood in his place for a bit and groaned. "I hope this doesn't end as something bad like always." "Hey, Noah, why are you standing there for?" Turd shouted from the distance. The voice of the fellow teen caught Noah's attention as he snapped out of his thoughts. Then he ran off to meet them with a loud voice. "Sorry, guys. I'm coming, guys." Suddenly, the speakers in Providence came on. "Attention! Attention! Unknown rift above Manhattan. I repeat. Unknown rift above Manhattan. Everyone to your various stations." The sudden alarm went to every Providence agent in the HQ, immediately causing many to run through the halls. Along with it came the loud alarms as Providence agents ran to their various place. Some of them even went by Rex and his friends to the hangar, which was actually Rex's place to go. Already, Rex's friends were confused and asking questions about it. But each confused question they heard didn't seem to go unnoticed by Rex, who suddenly sprinted to the other way. His action caught everyone by surprise, but fortunately Noah ran after him, as well as Circle and the others. Catching up to Rex proved to be a bit difficult to do. Fortunately, Noah caught him Jacket's wrist to get his attention. Once the teen slowed down, Noah asked instantly. "Dude, what the heck was that about?" Sorry, everyone." Rex apologized. He had a panicked expression on his face as he stood there looking at his friends. Fortunately, Cersei decided then to step in. "Rex, does this have to do with that guy you met with the watch?" Kind of." Rex said unsure. "Just come with me. Hopefully we can get some answers." Immediately, everyone nodded at that notion. There was no doubt in their minds as they ran with Rex to the briefing in search for the answers. Though none of them knew how important the issue was to Rex, they knew it was important anyway. A short while passed before the destination was reached. The first to enter was Rex, as the huge metal doors opened for him and his friends to run in. The first person on site was the big screen with White Knight on it, with Six, Dr. Holiday and Bobo standing about. "You're late," Bobo said instantly. Whatever briefing the occupants of the room had was ceased. White Knight was the first to speak once his eyes caught Rex and friends. "This is an authorized only, Rex. What are they doing here?" Rex looked back and realized his friends were indeed behind him. For a second, he had forgotten about them until that moment he was reminded. Nonetheless, he walked forward. "Look, I'm sorry for bringing them here. Just talk about this thing. We don't want Alpha returning." "Alpha?" asked Skydd confused. Then he got nudged at the shoulder by Turd. "Ow." White Knight groaned as he face-palmed himself. "Erg. Just go. You'll be informed on the way." Six nodded then at that moment in understanding. White Knight clearly didn't seem in the mood to speak on it, so Six decided to take it from there. His attention was instantly on Rex with his usual serious look as he walked over to him. "Come on. You heard him," he said straightly. "Ugh. Fine." Rex groaned. No one made any other word out as they left the briefing room. There was no telling what was before them, except to the people who actually knew. It took a short while before finally boarding one of Providence's jets. Inside, everyone sat at the cargo hold, at each side of the wall while Six door a few feet from the huge cargo door. They were not alone in the flight, as other Providence jets were by their sides, heading to Manhattan. While going there, the ride felt intense for some people. There was no talking from among them except for Six, who decided then to explain everything. It took longer than an ordinary briefing as it turned out that the incident in Manhattan had occurred before. Finally, the briefing ended and whole place fell into silence. Cersei took notice of it and pondered on what Six just informed them, before then speaking up with straight look. "So that's why everyone in Providence is tense. You're afraid?" "Yes and no," Six answered straightly. "The incident was contained by Providence, but it is Alpha or something similar to him that we're worried about. The only reason he was defeated was because of Rex." "I see," Circle muttered lowly. She looked at her boyfriend, who sat next to her, and noticed the serious expression on his face. It was something didn't show unless the threat was bigger than him. Nonetheless, seeing him like it worried him. "Rex," she called to him. Whatever attention Rex had was dropped upon hearing his girlfriend. His attention went over to her as he asked. "Yeah, something wrong, Cersei?" Dash. Unfortunately, the time to speak didn't come for the both. Six interrupted as the cargo door while he held on to a strap to avoid him from falling out of the moving jet. The speed had reduced a bit as Six interrupted further. "Rex, you should get going," he said urgently. "We'll drop your friends as far away as possible." Rex nodded at Six firmly before standing up. The bold expression he had on him dropped as he smiled with his usual cool while facing all his friends. "Hey. Sorry for dragging all of you into this. I'll be sure to make it up for you, I promise." For a second, Rex seemed convincing to everyone. But those who knew him well knew it wasn't a convincing move. They didn't mention it, and not long Rex turned from them and put on his goggles before jumping off. Immediately after, he flew right past their sight with his boogie pack, Jet's thing on his back. Some questions crossed Rex's mind without anyone knowing. He didn't think of a reason to talk about it, and now that he was on a mission he didn't need to. Most missions for him used to be the usual EVO fighting, but a lot had happened that eventually ended those days. There were still some dangers Rex and Providence faced from time to time. However, now it seemed higher than before. I don't know how to explain it. But this feeling, ugh. I hate déjà vu. Rex thought to himself. Suddenly, Dr. Holliday's voice came in Rex's headpiece. "Rex, come in." "Yeah, I'm here, document." Rex answered. "Good. We have a problem." Dr. Holliday told him urgently. "Something just came out of the rift. Providence is already after it. Surveillance of it is difficult, but they confirm they're on the chase. Its speed is remarkable though. Okay, I'm on my way. Just send me the dash." "Wait, Rex." Dr. Holliday interrupted. "The scanners just got something at the rift. Something's coming out." "Huh," Rex muttered under his breath. "Déjà vu all over again." "What's that?" asked Dr. Holliday. Rex shook his head. "No. I'm heading to the rift before it does harm. Keep me posted." "All right, Rex. Good luck." The conversation between Rex and Dr. Holliday ended with a small static sound, leaving Rex's to his thoughts once more. The teen knew what he had to do, which was to stop whatever was coming out of the rift. Some important questions were still on his mind, but he had the feeling he would find out very soon. Quickly, Rex increased his flight speed and headed to the rift. He looked down below him and found Providence vehicles evacuating people from the surroundings. It didn't come much as a surprise since the situation wasn't the first time it had happened, above the park at the exact spot as before. Nonetheless, Rex didn't let his thoughts cloud him. He flew up to the rift and noticed a small figure coming out. It didn't seem clear to the hero, but he noticed some colorful light coming from it. Such a sight made him rush faster at it and send his smack hands, big metal fists, at it while also shutting off his boogie pack. Everything that happened at that moment seemed to be fast. Rex didn't have much time to process it all until he was dumbstruck by the figure. It came at him so fast and used his launched fist to avoid his attack and send a swift kick at his face. Rex could have swore it felt like a normal human feat, but the fact that it sent him flying right into the park didn't give him time. In fact, it was so powerful that a huge crater was made underneath him. "DMN, what hit me?" Rex groaned hardly. The kick hurt so bad it felt a headache as he stood back on his feet. Fortunately, his time of taking beatings allowed him to shrug it off before then creating his punk busters, huge metal feet, to jump right out. His game face was back. "So are you up for some face stomping?" "Yeah," said a deep voice. Huge feet steps were heard as the figure marched forward. Its towering figure became present to Rex, as well its entire appearance. The creature had brown hard skin, green eyes and a tail. However, what caught Rex's surprise was the hourglass on his chest. "No, it can't be," Rex said in shock. "Yeah, it is," the creature replied. "You just made a humongous mistake. Ben." Unfortunately, Rex's voice wasn't heard by the creature. Once it made its comeback, it sent down its huge hands down on Rex. The weight of it would have crushed Rex if he hadn't activated his block party, gauntlets that create energy, to shield him from it. The attack didn't stop there though, as the creature kept pounding on it with its massive fist. It put some strain on Rex, who found his feet being dug into the ground from each punch. Finally, the creature came to a stop. "Now, stay down if you know what's good for you," he said. Then he turned his back and began walking away. Meanwhile, Rex put away his block party. The creature that attacked was a being that he has an alien courtesy of the same person he knew once. But for some reason, Ben didn't recognize him. The whole didn't felt confusing and frustrating to the extent that Rex activated his punk busters. "Hold it, Ben." Suddenly, Rex launched himself at Ben and swing kick him. The force of the kick caught the alien by surprise and sent him twirling till he ended up crashing into a statue. Rex was about to go after the alien, when suddenly Dr. Holiday called up. "Rex, is that Dash?" "Yeah, it's him." Rex answered instantly. "Then why are you two fighting?" Dr. Holiday asked. "I don't know. But one way or the other I'm going to find out. Just get that rift closed." "All right. Be care, Rex." "I'm always careful." "Right." The call instantly dropped, and so came the alien as he stood up. His large figure once again towered over Rex while he walked over to Rex with his right fist contacting with his open left hand. "Wanna play now, huh?" he said angrily. Lesson 1. When you mess with Ben, you get the dash. 10. Rex finished. He stood determinedly at his supposed friend with frustration. "Dude, you kind of said that once. Now are you going to come to your senses and remember, or am I gonna have to beat you till you do? Good luck with that." Ben said grumbled. Immediately, the talk was over before Rex thought. Ben charged at the teen and sent his fist down on him. However, Rex used his punk busters to jump over him and land at his other side. Next, he deactivated and activated his blast caster, a big electric WHP with an energy pack on his back, and launched the WHP at Ben. There was no way to avoid Rex's attack in the way he came. Ben found that out as the WHP wrapped around him and sent a strong electric charge over him. A loud cry came from the alien, before he was then pulled by Rex towards the teen with full force. Rex then followed by that attack by changing his right fist into one of his smack hands. One instant punch was all Rex needed to deliver. A hard blow from the teen sent Ben flying a few feet away. The alien's back skidded through the surface of the ground before finally coming to a stop. However, it didn't stop him at all since he got back on his feet almost immediately. "Is that all you got?" the alien asked mockingly. "No," Rex shouted. He used his punk busters to launch him into the air, directly at Ben while also activating his smack hands. "This is," he shouted. An immediate collision was inevitable to avoid once Rex hit Ben. His huge metal fist came down on Ben, sending him sliding through the ground once again. However, Rex didn't stop as he charged at Ben once more while he was down. He sent his fist down on the alien, only for it to be halted as a flash of light came from Ben. When the light cleared, gone was the alien Rex saw. Instead, the alien holding Rex's fist back was a big yellow armored with a Greek Corinthian helmet with two ears that resembled that of an armadillo, as well as a tail. The alien's current form allowed him to use his jackhammer elbow to send Rex flying a few feet away. Rex hadn't seen the attack coming. Fortunately, he acted quick in mid-air by deactivating all his machines before doing a backflip that allowed him to land on his feet. The teen had only a few seconds to react before then flying back by his boogie pack to avoid another blow from Ben. "Now you're running," Ben shouted. "I'm not running, Ben," Rex said back. He landed back on his feet, a few miles from Ben, and activated his slam cannon, a large orange cannon. "I'm just being smart." Ben sent a sharp glare at Rex before charging at the teen hero. But it didn't sound so easy, as Rex used the slam cannon to grab a chunk of rock before firing it. The rock came at Ben and was blown off by a single punch from Ben. The attack came as a mild surprise from Rex, but didn't stop him from firing more. Each chunk of rock Rex sent served another means than it did. Despite the number that Ben punched to pieces, Rex kept himself still until the last moment. Once the gap between him and Ben was short, he deactivated the machine and reactivated his boogie pack to fly him off just in time to avoid a blow from Ben. While in the air, Rex formed another plan as he flew above Ben. The alien had his eyes on him as he came around him in an effort to attack. The only thing separating them was the distance, which Rex shortened by replacing his boogie pack with his Rex Ride, a motorcycle that levitates. Yeah, it's literally what it sounds for once. Meanwhile, Ben had anticipated before Rex and decided to close that gap. His jackhammer right hand came down on the ground, sending a huge shake in the ground that tore the ground apart. However, he didn't anticipate Rex's ability to quickly change from his Rex Ride to his Punk Busters, allowing him to send a direct kick at Ben. An instant hit made contact, and not long had Ben flying a few feet. The alien hit the ground and tumbled, before then finally coming to a stop. Before then, his body crashed through trees before one actually stopped him. Meanwhile, Rex saw the whole thing from the air above. His point of view gave him the impression to meet the beaten alien, which he did. For that, he deactivated his boogie pack and landed on the ground. "Had enough of that, Ben," said the teen superhero. "Don't count of it." Ben groaned. The kick had caught the alien by surprise, as he tried to get up. Once he did stand on his feet, his green eyes glared at him. "You had your turn. Now it's my turn." Suddenly, a flash of light came from Ben once again. His body structure changed to a smaller and human-like form, which became visible to see. Gone was the big armored alien that Rex beat cleverly. In his place was a feline-like alien with a black suit-like color scheme. "Wow, I've not seen this guy before," Rex said in surprise. "Of course you haven't," Ben replied. Suddenly, the alien ran so fast as a blue streak and punched Rex in the face. The attack caught him by surprise, but it didn't matter. Another fast punch from the blue streak got him from the back, prompting him to activate his smack hands to smack him. However, it didn't happen like Rex thought. Ben outran a swing of the big metal fist and uppercut him at the chin. The force of the attack, as well as the speed it came, sent Rex flying a few feet away. A groan came from the teen hero as he lay on the ground with his hands back to normal. "Erg, I didn't see that coming," he groaned. Quickly, Rex didn't waste any time to get back on his feet. He did it at good timing though, as Ben came for him again. Fortunately, he activated his funchucks, big energized nunchucks, and hurled one at Ben. The attack came as an instant swing hit at Ben, causing him to hit the ground and bounce before coming to a stop. "Finally!" Rex shouted triumphantly. His funchucks were instantly gone and replaced by his slam cannon, which he then used to launch a chunk of rock at Ben's way. Rex's earlier attack had taken a punch toll on Ben's body. But it didn't hold him down once he got over it and got back on his feet to run off. He successfully avoided the chunk of rock heading his way and ran over to Rex once again. His action didn't go unnoticed by the teen hero, who quickly switched to his smack hands. Unfortunately, Rex didn't stand a chance. Between the time Ben ran to him and for Rex to switch to another machine, Ben had the speed advantage with him. His fast run made things seem slow as he ducked down from Rex's huge fist and sent an uppercut. That instant attack knocked Rex on his back, before Ben then grabbed his leg and spun his body. Throughout the spin, Rex felt nauseated at each passing second. His first course would have been to activate one of his machines now that he was trapped. However, Ben didn't let him have it, as he threw Rex across a pond to hit a tree. The impact caused the tree to shake, with some cracks on the body of the tree. The impact had done a number on Rex as well as he fell on his knees. He held his forehead to get over the spinning while getting over his feet. "Whoa, he's a lot tougher than before," he said, while trying to hold down his lunch. Suddenly, Ben could be seen coming again. His noisy dashing caught Rex's attention, who quickly created his block party to create an energy field that shielded the alien's advance. It worked as expected, as Ben came and rammed into the shield which sent him to the ground on his back. While the moment was right, Rex replaced his block party with his smack hands. One of the hands was then sent down on Ben, but ended up hitting the ground. The reason for it turned to be Ben, who quickly got back on his feet and ran off. The blue streak that followed the alien was noticeably seen running through the entrance of the park, which caught Rex's attention. "Hey! Where do you think you're going?" he shouted. Immediately, Rex decided to give chase by switching to another machine. This time he replaced his smack hands with his sky slider, which was a big metal levitating surfing board. With it, Rex chased after Ben in quick speed. The chase went from right of the park to the very streets of Manhattan. Through it, Rex pushed himself to catch up with Ben as the other team didn't seem like slowing down. It would have been hard to catch up with him if it weren't for the very energy Rex had to endure the speed limits they obviously passed. Suddenly, while running at their fastest, Ben suddenly jumped at a lamppost and used it to spin his body. It happened so fast, and not long had him flying right at Rex with both legs hitting him at the chest. An instant impact happened then, causing Rex's body to bounce on the road before hitting the side of a van. It didn't stop there though. Rex groaned while getting back on his feet, when Ben suddenly came again. The quick speed Ben possessed allowed him to punch Rex several times in the stomach within seconds. Then he grabbed him by the shirt, spun around like a tornado and threw him at the other side of the road. Once freed, Rex hit the ground and tumbled before coming to a stop. The teen hero did it on his own by activating his punk busters, which allowed him to come to a stop, though not without dragging his massive feet through the ground. The outcome of the beating caused him to puff from air from his mouth as he deactivated his punk busters. "Okay, now you're being a bit too rough," he said. Rex never got a response, nor did it seem it was heard. Instead, B ran at him again in his usual blue streak. His speed would have caught the teen off guard again, but this time Rex was ready. He activated his smash hands and sent them HRD on the ground, sending a shockwave that shattered the ground. It also sent Ben flying back and hitting the same van Rex made contact with. Momentarily, nothing happened between both fighters. Rex changed his hands back to normal and looked at Ben skeptically as he got back up. "You know, I hate being the CRP out of you, so let's call this off before I get really mad, Ben." "You're right," Ben replied. But the look on his face didn't show what Rex expected. He stood boldly once more and balled his fist while glaring at Rex. "Unfortunately, you've made me mad." "You mad?" Rex said in anger. "You're the one trashing everything." "Maybe. But now you've made an atomic mistake." "Atomic?" Rex looked confused. Yeah. Do you come up with these things as you go?" Ben didn't answer his question. Instead, he tapped the hourglass symbol on his chest and became covered in a flash of green light. When it died, Ben stood as a 20-foot tall. "Atomics!" Ben bellowed. "Wow!" Rex said in awe. "Another new one?" "Very," Ben said. There was no expression to be indicated from Ben's current form. However, Rex didn't have the time to ponder on it as Ben started moving his now glowing green hands while chanting. "HAMENA. Okay, this doesn't sound good," Rex muttered to himself. Suddenly, Ben shot up into the air, heading straight for Rex. There was little thing to do at that moment, which led Rex to activate his block party to defend himself. The distance between them was then instantly closed, with Ben send the full power of his fists down on Rex. Nuclear bomb. One instant impact was all it took to shake the very ground. Along with were windows shattered and a tremor that went about 25 miles from the source of the impact. By the time the alien drew back its fists, Rex lay in a huge crater, lying on his back with his body slightly wounded. As for Automix, he became engulfed in a flash of green light and stood as a 13-year-old teen in a green jacket and blue jeans. "And that, as they say, is that," he said with a small smirk. Suddenly, Sounds of incoming jets were heard from afar. It caught the attention of Ben, who quickly looked up to find Providence jets above him. "Ah, crud," he muttered. Quickly, Ben became covered in another green light. This time, his form was the blue feline speedster, which he then used to run off before the jets could open fire. One of them landed the moment he left, with 6 and 2 Providence agents walking out. For a moment, 6 had a very worried expression on his face upon staring at Rex. The crater looked huge and Rex's beaten condition didn't help to ease him. "Get help now," 6 ordered the agents. The agents quickly obeyed and went to do as told. As for 6, he jumped into the crater and held Rex up. "Don't worry. Help is on the way," he muttered to the unconscious teen. Some time passed since the battle with Ben. Since then, Rex had been taken to Providence HQ to be treated by Dr. Holliday. While at that, certain issues were to be investigated. Some things were still kept quiet on, but it didn't exclude any good news about Rex. It had taken about 4 hours before he woke up from his unconscious state. He currently was receiving treatment. "Men, this sucks," Rex groaned. Currently, he was sitting on the examination table with his shirt off. An X-ray examination was done on him while in Dr. Holliday's laboratory. So far a few words had been exchanged between Dr. Holliday and Rex. They were not alone in the lab though, as 6 stood not too far with his usual expression coming from him. Silence was the only thing from the man while Bobo sat by a table, eating a banana. It didn't seem like it, but 6 was actually worried. He didn't show it or in any way break his composure. Rather, he asked in his usual firm voice while looking at Dr. Holliday. "So how's Rex's condition?" "Fine to be honest," Dr. Holliday answered. She kept her attention on an iPad which showed Rex's body scan. His body was exposed to nuclear radiation, which is something that would have poisoned the normal human being. "So he's okay." "Great," Bobo said while munching. "Of course I am." Rex spoke with a down tone. He jumped off from the examination table and attempted to stretch his arms. But it didn't go as he thought it would. The reason for it became revealed as he winced and slowly brought his arm down. Rex's pain didn't go unnoticed once it was heard. It caught Dr. Holliday's attention, as well as her concern, as she walked over to him. "Take it easy, Rex. You're still healing. What you took was a direct hit from a nuclear reactor," she said. "Yeah," Rex muttered sadly. "Ben sure didn't hold back." "Yes, well actually," 6 tried to say. However, the man didn't get to continue. The information he wanted to say was interrupted once the doors slid open to allow Rex's friends got in. Along with them were 2 Providence agents, whom 6 glared at sharply. "What are they doing here?" he asked. Meanwhile, the sight of seeing Rex seemed to make the friends rush to their friend. Their faces were filled by concern, which Cersei instantly spoke of as she held Rex's shoulder. "Rex, how are you doing? We heard you got beaten badly." "What? How do you know about that?" Rex asked. An instant silence came from the group as they turned to Bobo. The chimpanzee in question smiled sheepishly and held his hand up. Noah had my number," he said. "You have a number? Since when?" Rex asked. "Hey, I think we already established a year ago that I have a life outside here," Bobo said instantly. Rex groaned quietly at the retorting. Just when he thought he knew his friend, it turned out he might have more secrets. However, Rex didn't dwell into that thought as he turned to his friends once again with concern. "Look, guys, I totally fine. When I get out of here, I'm going to give Ben some mechanical knuckle sandwich." "Wow." Cricket blinked. "Did you just say that?" "Yeah, that was kind of weak," SKYWDD said. "Hey!" Rex objected. The tone of Rex's voice didn't come as a surprise. In fact, it became the reason why everyone erupted into a laugh of their own. It made the mood lighter and caused the teen to smile, knowing that nothing had changed. However, the laughing moment didn't last long. Their time was nice, but Six chose the moment to interrupt as he stood closer than he was previously. "Well, if you're done, maybe you can have your friends leave," Six said firmly. "What? Why?" Circe said in surprise. "That's classified," Six answered immediately. By the tone of Six's voice, Rex could determine what it was. He knew how strict Six could be and decided to intervene as he spoke. "Six, if this is about Ben, you should just say it. They came all this way to know how I was doing." "Fine," Six said. He looked over to Dr. Holiday. "Show them." "Of course," Dr. Holiday said. The woman quickly went to her iPad and tapped something. Suddenly, the huge screen in the lab came on and showed an aerial view of the battle. "There's something we aren't sure of yet. But what we caught on footage is shocking to say the least." The moment Dr. Holiday finished, the aerial viewing zoomed in. It revealed the crater Rex had been in against Ben. Not only that, it showed as Ben became engulfed in a flash of light to reveal a kid younger than the teen superhero they knew. "Wow! That's Ben!" Rex shouted in surprise. "That's what we think," Dr. Holiday said. "We could say it isn't him, but the facial he possesses is the same as Ben. If anything, it seems much younger. And is capable to change into the same form Tennyson did," added Six. "Okay. Rex said, a bit confused. His expression showed his confusion and the urgency for answers, which he didn't hold back as he continuously faced Dr. Holiday. "Well, got anything to explain this? A younger Ben Tennyson sounds crazy." "It does," Dr. Holiday said calmly. "That might explain why your brother, Caesar, called in." "Caesar?" Rex said, mildly surprised. His shock was instantly calmed down with a small scowl. "So he finally shows up all this month?" Dr. Holiday nodded. "Yes. Apparently, his attention was drawn by the rift and the creature that Providence chased after. It somehow got to his old lab and hacked into the systems for something he assumed were for information." "Information?" Noah asked. "Information about what?" "Our world," Dr. Holiday answered. "It makes sense for a visitor of another world. However, that isn't the only surprising thing Caesar stated. He actually hacked Providence systems and saw the footage we witnessed. According to him, the boy you fought is indeed Ben Tennyson, but not the one you know." "What?" Rex shouted in surprise. "Okay, now you're not making sense." "Well, sometimes the multiverse doesn't." "The multiverse?" Noah questioned. He turned to his best friend confused. "I'm not very good with science, but isn't that just a theory? When you told me the first time, I thought you were kidding or something." "Well, it is real," Rex said. "I thought the same thing until I met Ben." He sighed a bit and turned back to Dr. Holiday with a small gesture. "So what did my crazy brother say about Ben?" "Well," she hesitated to say, "it would seem you fought a parallel version of him. Now, before you ask any more questions, let me explain. The multiverse theory suggests that they are multiple universes, some different or slightly similar than the other. And in some cases the faith of an individual is changed in another world. That is what brings up this Ben Tennyson you fought. It explains why the older Ben we met didn't recognize you." "Well, I guess that makes sense," Circe said calmly. "But if that is the case, then why is this Ben Tennyson here?" "That we're not sure," Dr. Holiday told them. She looked to Rex specifically and asked, "Was there anything you noticed about him?" "Well, you mean besides saying the same comebacks, then sure," Rex answered. His mood became mellow as he took seriousness into account of his experience. He acted like he was in a rush and was dark. "Dark?" Noah asked. Yeah, Rex turned to his friend. Like he didn't care on what he was doing. The Ben I knew was fine and was kind of like me in fights. But this guy seemed to careless about me once he saw the fight prolong. Wow. Turd uttered. Dr. Holiday thought about the new information. It became clear to her. Then it's clear that he was after the same creature Providence went after. Sadly, that didn't go so well. The tune of Dr. Holiday's voice was odd. It caught Rex's attention instantly, more than the others in the room, as shown when he moved his body forward. What happened, Doc? He asked. They were killed. Six answered firmly. His expression didn't seem to let down as he spoke. I guess killed is a loose term. Butchered seems more appropriate. The damage was so bad that not a single man or thing was left intact by the time Providence sent help. Wow. Noah uttered. His reaction was a mix of shock and dread at the thought of the fate that befell the Providence agents. Noah was not alone in his feeling though. Once Six finished, everyone became quiet with the expected reaction written on their faces. Cersei had witnessed some awful things due to being with Van Clyce, with the same almost for Tuck, Skywdd and Cricket back when they were on the streets as EVOs. However, none of their dread matched Rex's reaction. No one needed to see the footage of the fate that befell the Providence agents, nor did they need to talk on it. Six has always been known to be clear, though how he could handle such things was still astonishing to some people. The silence in the room was kept as it was until Rex slammed his fist on the table he sat on. I should have been there. He shouted angrily. His anger was clear on his face, followed by rage that he kept from rising as he continued. All that time I was fighting Ben, when I should have been with them. I could have taken that monster down or at least saved them. But instead I got my own butt kicked by Ben. Rex, that's enough. Six ordered him. We have no information on this thing. It's not an EVO or anything related to such. If Tennyson was indeed after it, then we'll need to find him and get answers. Rex tensed a bit, not minding his mentor/friend. He heard all he was told, but could still feel the anger in him. Fortunately, he began to calm down as he sighed and looked down to the ground. Fine. Again, a bit of silence became into the laboratory. Rex's outburst worried his friends, especially Cersei as she sat next to him and embraced him. Six looked away from the couple and their friends to Dr. Holiday for some reason. A lot of questions were clearly on everyone's mind and no doubt White Knight needed answers. Suddenly, the intercom speakers came on with a static. Loud voices and shooting could be heard, which alarmed everyone in the laboratory in shock and confusion. Then an unknown voice came through the speakers. Dear Providence, your headquarters is now under my control, said the voice with a familiar evil glee. Since you must know, I am Nefarious, the creature that tore those pathetic humans from your organizations beyond recognition. Those words stung in more ways depending on who heard it. It angered Six and Sacred Rex's friends as they stood there looking at the speakers. Rex kept his eyes on it too, though his anger was much more than Six. Nonetheless, the voice continued. Also, I'm obviously not from this world. But I have learned about everything that occurred with these things called nanites and what they could do. Rex Salazar, I know you're here, and I know as a hero you'll be quite angry with the fine work I did on those Providence pests. So if you wish to save this headquarters and everyone in it from the same fate, meet me where I am now. Ha 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 ha. Then it went off. Everyone in the room took everything in on what they heard, especially Rex. The teen's negative emotion toward had him so caught on that he rushed directly for the door. His action didn't go unnoticed by the others, who ran to the door only to be stopped by Six before them. Stay here. He ordered without a single thought. This is too dangerous. Then he looked at Dr. Holiday. Have this lab under lockdown. Rex, Bobo and I will handle this. Me? Bobo asked with mild shock. He was then met with a glare from Six and sighed. Fine. Enough was said and now called for action. Six made sure Bobo went before him before looking at Dr. Holiday, who was also facing him with sympathy. "Be careful," she said. "We will be." He nodded at her. Then he went out of the lab, which was then put on lockdown. Rex rushed through the hallways, heading straight for the main briefing room. His mind was focused on anger and determination on the creature that supposedly killed Providence agents with new intention to kill everyone in the building. Already, his mind was made up on stopping the villain in any means necessary. Rex was not alone though. While he rushed to the room on his sky slider, he could already spot Providence agents trying to keep her. Nonetheless, he got to his destination while hearing the sounds of gunfire. The sight he got to receive was shocking to say the least. The main briefing room was wide and big. It had screens and other high-technological machines hooked everywhere. The teen superhero had gotten used to it, though what he saw standing in the middle of the room was something he didn't expect. Before him, a creature at the height of 15 feet was battling some Providence agents. Actually, battling was a useless term. The reason for this was due to the creature's invulnerability to any of the agent's weapons. Every bullet bounced on him while he stood there with a huge grin on his face. He didn't seem disturbed or bothered about it. If anything, he was enjoying the attempt. Nonetheless, Rex decided to act once he deactivated his machine. He had his attention at the remaining Providence agents still fighting and shouted, "Hey, get out of here. I got this." The Providence agents heard him and stopped their assault. They were not alone though, as Nefarious turned to face him with a menacing grin. "Ah, I see you got here," he said. "Of course I did," Rex replied determinedly. "What you did to those Providence agents was horrible. I'll make sure you don't ever get the chance to do such a thing." "You sure of that?" he said with his grin. He didn't show any intimidation, but rather more excited. "I've destroyed a civilization of 2 worlds, with powerful heroes that would amaze you. I have powers that you've never seen or can ever imagine. And best of all, I killed BEN10." "What?" Rex shouted angrily. "I don't believe you. I met Ben just a few hours ago." "Oh, I'm not talking about that Ben," he said menacing. His grin only seemed to spread as he held his hand to his chest. "No, I'm talking about the Tennyson you know, because you see human, I came from his universe." "No, that's not possible." He chuckled. "Human, it is. I checked the data about him, your dear brother, and I can assure you he is identical to the one I know. In fact, his recorded encounter in the plumber database is what got me interested in the multiverse. Don't worry, your friend and his friends gave a good fight before I end him." "No," Rex muttered in shock. His body trembled at the news while tears began to leak from his eyes. Memories of his time with Ben crossed his mind, all the while building up to the rage inside him. "You're lying. You can ask the Ben you encountered. I told him the same news during one of our battles. DMNU." Suddenly, Rex jumped right at the enemy and kicked him by activating his punk busters. The force of it came with speed that instantly knocked Nefarious across the room, against a metal wall. The attack didn't faze him though, as he stood up again, only to be wrapped by a huge metal WHP. The WHP belonged to Rex, who had activated his blast caster. The hold on Nefarious felt strong, and not long paid its price. With it, Rex sent a high voltage of electricity from the energy pack on his back, thereby electrocuting Nefarious, who screamed. Along with the torture came a tight squeeze, which he then used to lift the villain off the ground and send him crashing into the main computers. However, Rex wasn't done with his attack. He stood glaring at the knocked-down supervillain determinedly. "Now listen here, Nefarious. You may think you're all that, but trust me, you're not," he said. "I'm going to avenge those Providence agents, and I will avenge my friend, Ben Tennyson." Once Rex spoke, he put himself into action once more. He activated his punk busters and jumped onto the ceiling. Then he activated it once he caught a grip on it and reactivated the same machines to send him at Nefarious. At mid-air, he activated his battle axes, it's what it sounds, and came straight for Nefarious with both ready to strike the villain down. Each seconds that passed by only closed the gap between Rex and Nefarious. He had his whole energy on the mechanical giant axes to end the villain once and for all. Rex had enough battle experiences to know that such attack would be a heavy blow to the point of killing him. It was his plan after all, hence his objective. Unfortunately, Rex didn't get anywhere close to his intention. The reason for it turned out to be Nefarious, who caught both giant axes with his bare hands. It shocked the teen as his eyes went wide. "What the dash?" he said. Rex's position above Nefarious had its little time before the supervillain shot him with laser beams from his eyes. The impact knocked the teen to a round table-like machine, causing a huge impact on it. As for Nefarious, he chuckled as he stood up. "It's always fun to play the fall guy," he said. While at it, he walked over to Rex casually. "I told you before, human. I've faced powerful heroes and killed them. Your friend tried and failed, as well as this version of Ben. What makes you think you're an exception?" Rex groaned. Because he tried getting up with a strained look on his face. Unfortunately, he was cut off by Nefarious, who shot more beams at his chest. "That's where you're wrong, boy. There's nothing you can do." Nefarious had his way with Rex while shooting down on him. It hurt so bad that Rex screamed out loud as he felt the pain all over his body. Nefarious didn't seem like he would stop anytime soon, as he laughed manically while enjoying the hero's weak moment. Fortunately, Rex didn't have to endure it for long. More Providence agents had reinforced with the few that stood by, and not long launched several rockets at the super being. The impact caught Nefarious by surprise and halted his attack on Rex, though not anywhere close to weakening him. In fact, it angered the villain mildly as he held his now glowing hand at them. "Why you little pe-, he said, but stopped. A reason for Nefarious's action had come in the form of red blasts at his face. Though it did not damage it distracted him long enough for Six to get close in a fast pace. But his action didn't go unnoticed by the villain, as he let out a loud roar and sent a wave at Bobo, the one responsible for the attack. It hit the EVO chimpanzee hard and knocked him against the metal wall, with him becoming unconscious. However, the battle wasn't over. While Six made his way at Nefarious, the supervillain caught sight of him and began shooting ecto beams at him. The effort was however fruitless though, as Six evaded them to the point that he was in close range of him. His effort annoyed the supervillain, who then tried to slam his huge open hand at him. There were a lot of things Six could do, and the courage to face a powerful being stood out all of them. He kept his focused expression in his charge and evaded the large hand coming down on him. Then he leapt onto the hand and made his way up to the elbow, only to then evade Nefarious's open hand. He jumped perfectly onto the villain's shoulder, before then jumping onto the top of his head. "Arg! Get off me!" Nefarious growled angrily. Six didn't reply. Instead, he held one of his blades up and sent into one of the villain's 4 eyes. Instantly, a loud shout came from Nefarious, who for the first time was mildly subdued by a human. Six chose that chance to leave, as he pulled his blade back and jumped off. Nefarious's pain continued to distract him to the point that it allowed Six to land on his feet and turn at him with a swift throw of his other blade. That single blade, with perfect accuracy, hit another of Nefarious's eyes, causing him to stumble back and fall to the ground. "Humph." Six was his response. The attack had seemed easy, but it was a risk nonetheless. When the former mercenary charged, he had to be precisely careful in his advance. However, now that the problem was momentarily subdued, he rushed over to Rex, with both hands going underneath the teen. "Rex! Rex!" he shouted. A small mm came from the teen. Followed by the mm was his eyes open weaken. "Six, is that you?" he asked. "Yes. 6 confirmed. Now's not the time for question. We have to get you out of here immediately. No, you're not, shouted a familiar voice. Suddenly, 6 felt the gravity on him lifted. The odd feeling was followed by a green aura around him that then sent him up to the air, directly into 6's hand. The action caught Rex's full attention as he winced while trying to sit up. 6! He shouted. At this point, there was nothing that could stop Nefarious' way. Already, he had 6 in his right hand while also pulling one of the ex-mercenaries' blade out of his eyes. The blades had done damage to them, but they healed back anew. With them, he glared angrily at 6. That was the biggest mistake you made in your very short life, human. He said. Wait, Rex said. His voice came like a whisper with a horrified look on his face. You leave him alone. No. Nefarious said. Fear rushed all over Rex's body while feeling beaten. His body had taken so much beating that he could barely stay up on his own. He literally couldn't do anything to save 6, who was trying to struggle out of the villain's grip. Then he stopped and smiled at Rex. You've been a great kid, Rex. Tell Dr. Holiday I dash. Enough, said Nefarious. His life-sucking ability showed itself once more as 6 became covered in a green ghostly aura that drained the human's whole life to the point that even his ashes didn't remain. 6! Rex shouted. The experience was beyond shocking and horrifying to describe. Rex was not alone though. The death of 6 also triggered the Providence agents to fire fully on the monster. Unfortunately, it did nothing but caught his attention on them. The villain grinned a bit as a result and held a yellow sparkly energy at them. I almost forgot about you. Let's fix that, shall we? He said. Suddenly, each Providence agent began to combust into flames. Their screams went loud as they felt their bodies burn till they either died from it or fell and burned to ashes. The sight was horrifying to witness for Rex, who put in much effort and got back on his feet. Stop this right now. He shouted angrily. What? Nefarious questioned. His attention went back on Rex, who he then grinned at as he saw him try to rush at him. Why do you bother? He asked rhetorically. His question then came with a beam that knocked Rex against the ground. I've killed countless lives and you think telling me to stop would change that? I can even destroy this entire base and everyone in it without breaking a single sweat. In fact, I can destroy your entire planet with little effort. Rex winced in pain from the ground. His whole body felt strained by the pain as he tried to stay awake. The experience only became worse when he heard Nefarious walk towards him while looking down on. But fortunately for you and the inhabitants of this earth, I came for one thing. The villain continued. You're Omega Nanite. Nothing could stop Nefarious now. Once he stood close to Rex, he picked him up by a doll and sent a surge of energy at him. The collision caused Rex to scream while he felt his nanites trying to combat the foe. Unfortunately, the effort was fruitless. Nefarious's attempt caught the blue nanite in the teen's BLD vessels and pulled it into his own body. Yes! He shouted triumphantly. His happiness over his accomplishment made his disregard Rex, who he shot away to the hard metal ground. Suddenly, a new transformation began. The humongous feat Nefarious possessed became encased in armor. The armor was blue, with metal fist gauntlets and a chest plate that had a fashioned Z insignia on his chest. The blue-colored armor covered his ankle, elbow and neck place, while the white-covered armor covered his thighs, wrists and lower sides of his body. The new changes to Nefarious's body went as expected. Not only had certain part of his body was encased in the powerful armor, his tail was encased in it while also having a sharp tip. The same could be said about his feet and hands that made both the fingers and toes sharper than usual when needed. Suddenly, two huge energy balls flew straight at Nefarious. They crashed directly on the villain, but did no damage. Followed by the attack was the revelation of the assailant who turned out to be Ben in his ultimate Ben form. This form resembled his normal self, except that its jacket was longer with white twinkling stars. His pants were black with the same star, along with fingerless gloves. He wore the Omnitrix's symbol on his chest. Ben Tennyson. Nefarious said. Or is it Ultimate Ben? I see my duplicates kept you occupied around the world as planned. What have you done, Nefarious? Ben asked angrily. Isn't it obvious? He asked. His expression was calming as he pointed to the unmoving Rex. I killed and destroyed. And now the boy is in a coma-like state that is slowly killing his mind. Usually, I would kill him swiftly, but, he turned to Ben. I believe you'll save him while giving me the chance to leave. Why? Because he's this world's superhero and his death would be the repeat of Danny Phantom and the others. Ben bit his lip while clutching his fists tightly. A lot of negative emotions were running in his mind, as well as the memory of the death of the people he knew. As for Nefarious, the supervillain turned his back at him and opened a portal with a wave of his hand. I'll be off to another world. My journey to the ultimate power is very well close to the point that I can taste it. He said. Ben said nothing to the supervillain. He felt the urge to beat Nefarious into oblivion for all the villain has done. However, he chose not to do it. Nefarious knew the obvious, which he had stated earlier, before turning his back at the teen. He went into the portal and it closed instantly. Once Nefarious was gone, Ben turned his eyes on to Rex. The teen was still in his place without moving a single muscle. It however became critical when Ben realized the teenager was breathing. It was an alarming sight, which got Ben to teleport to Rex's side. A sympathy and scared look had replaced the teen's face as he let his hands glow light blue. Please don't die too. He said. Ben felt a lot about Rex despite knowing very little about him. Seeing him in a fatal way brought memories of his last time with Timmy who had stood at the doors of death. It was this same memory that led Ben to touch his forehead with his right hand and the teen's chest with his left. Then his consciousness was drawn directly into an unexpected scene. Some minutes passed by before another batch of Providence agents rushed in. With the good agents was Dr. Holiday, Rex's friends and Cersei, his girlfriend. The agents scattered around while a few followed the small group to see Ben kneeling next to Rex with his glowing hands on him. Some time ago, the teens and Dr. Holiday had witnessed everything that occurred in the room by the security camera. It was a shocking experience that couldn't be described by how they felt. Seeing 6 die into nothing caused Dr. Holiday so much. She and the others would have come to the scene if it weren't for Providence agents keeping them in by White Knight's order. However, once the danger was gone, they were free to leave. Currently, no one felt sure on what to do. One common question was in their minds, though it was Cersei who spoke it. What is he doing? She asked. I don't know. Dr. Holiday said. Suddenly, Ben's hands stopped glowing. The super-powered teen then opened his eyes, followed by Rex with a groan. Both of them made eye contact with each other and grasped each other's hands with a smile on their faces. Thank you. Rex said. I should be telling you that. Ben said with a smile. You showed me something I forgot about. I promise to not lose sight of it ever again. The moment Rex and Ben had with each other was good. However, it didn't last long as his friends embraced him. While at it, Ben stood up and was met by Dr. Holiday with a confused look on his face. I'm sorry, but might I ask what you did? She asked. Sure. Ben answered. Rex's body had taken so much damage from Nefarious's attacks, and the fact that he took that Omega nanite from him in a violent way ruptured his systems and his brain to the point that he was in a coma. You might say he was literally in the crossroad between life and death in the spiritual plane. Wow. Dr. Holiday was astonished. If that is so, can you bring by 6? Ben frowned. No, I'm sorry. A sigh then came from him as determination replaced any sadness. But I promise you, I will make sure his death isn't in vain. Dr. Holiday smiled a bit. A few tears leaked out of her eyes, which she cleaned off. "Thank you, Mr. Tennyson." "Hey, call me Ben." The teen smiled. Then he turned to face Rex. "Oh, and Rex?" "Yeah?" Rex asked. His friends gave him space and had their attention on Ben. "I promise I'll return your Omega Nanite to you." "I have faith you will." Rex smiled. The sight of their closeness was surprisingly. Whatever that had happened between them was a mystery to ponder about. However, Ben didn't stay around to explain things. Instead, he said his goodbyes and opened a portal with a wave of hands. Then he jumped into the portal and was off to another universe entirely different than anyone he had seen before. The skies seemed clear in a normal flight like any a massive creature known as a bison flew calmly through the air, directly miles above the ocean as it headed to a known destination. His occupants were currently 3, and all in their teens, with 2 of them wearing similar blue tribal clothes and the other one, a bald kid, wearing an entirely yet tribal clothes while having a long wooden staff on his lap. Currently, the atmosphere amongst them was quiet. The bald kid had a silent expression of concern as he stood on the herd of the bison, held by a rope that was attached to its huge horns. He had been like that for some time, even to the point that the 2 teenagers who accompanied him looked at each other concerned and very worried for the boy. Fortunately, their silence came to an end when the girl went over to the boy and sat next to him. "Aang, I'm worried," said the girl. "You've been like this ever since you got the letter from Zuko concerning the Fire Nation Island. Now I'm aware that the letter sounded very urgent, but you need to relax or else you might end up like the time you went bonkers before we invaded the Fire Nation." Sokka. The girl turned and snapped at her brother. Sokka for the time had been silent until that point. But when he saw the angry glare from his little sister he shut his mouth and looked the other way. Though he didn't mean to be rude, Katara still couldn't help but be angry at him. However, it all changed when Aang, the bald kid, finally spoke. "It's fine, Katara. I don't mind Sokka's remark." Aang said deeply. "I promise I'll be fine. After all, this isn't the first time we've been called through an emergency." "I know," Katara said understandably. "But you just seem so serious right now. It's almost like you expect something really bad to happen." Aang fell silent on that moment. He did for a reason and even thought about staying quiet on it. But the second that thought came he rejected it and revealed his feelings. "That's because I feel something bad has happened and only get worse." "What?" Katara was shocked. "How can you be sure? Maybe it's just a coincidence." Aang sighed and looked to his lap. "I thought so too," he replied with concern. "But ever since I woke up, I felt like something was off. I don't know how to explain it, but I at first thought it was nothing until Zuko's letter came an hour later. I don't know what exactly is going on but I'm going to find out." Katara was deeply concerned to hear this. She knew how serious Aang had taken things and as such couldn't blame him. Instead, the lovely Water Tribe girl placed her hand softly on his hand and stared at his face with a small smile. "Well, whatever the case may be, just know I'm here for you always," she said. "I know." Aang smiled back a bit. Though Aang couldn't rid himself of the uneasiness, he still felt some relief. Katara's smile had always felt like light in darkness that drew him out most of his gloom. There were times he wondered how he would go without her but then put it aside, knowing he had such a strong, confident and lovely girlfriend by his side. And as much as he wanted to stare more into her eyes, Sokka interrupted with a yell. "Hey, how about me?" "Huh?" The couple looked back at Sokka. Presently, Sokka sat with his legs and hands crossed. His face surprisingly had a serious look to it, even as he began standing up as he spoke. "Yeah, I got your back too, Aang. If you got a bad feeling then I'll believe you all the way." "Wow, Sokka, that's really nice of you," Aang said gratefully. "Yup," Sokka replied and cocked a grin. His satisfaction over the compliment was a good feeling to him until he snapped his eyes open and glared at the avatar. "Hey, I've said other nice things to you." Katara and Aang erupted into short fit of laughter. They actually felt relieved by Sokka's action, though looked away as the guy acted childishly. To the two, it was a good time to be with each other, which unbeknownst to them was the calm before the storm. From the skies, the Fire Nation's standing island could be seen from the skies. It held more prosperity as an ideal place where marketing of goods could be made as well as encouraging trade. Life on the island was said to be so good that many people from the two other different nations joined them more efficient in the trade. For years, it had strived as a trading and marketing place that grew into a prospering village where people of different nations began to coexist. In fact, life on the island was said to be so good that Fire Lord Zuko made it put much effort into it to ensure everyone is treated well. Hence, that's how the island and its occupants lived. The peace and union among them was becoming an example of unity until one day tragedy struck. Aang, Katara and Sokka received word from Zuko that the island had been attacked by something unknown. They didn't get any specifics on what it had been, but they were aware that the issue was urgent. Now that they were drawing close to the island, they could see it perfectly. They saw small Fire Nation ships aligned on the shores as Fire Nation Navy officers could be seen helping the people. The scene was confusing to see until the trio looked forward and gasped at what they saw. From the sky, they saw what remained of the island. The marketplaces were destroyed while the forest it had were either uprooted from the ground or burnt beyond recognition. It even felt worse when they landed on the shore just in time to see how bad the people had been affected. Some time ago, Aang and his friends had visited the land. They had seen the way the people strived well and the dedication the adults took to their work. Sadly, that sight didn't seem to be the case anymore. Instead, the sight that took their attention were numerous Fire Nation Navy soldiers helping injured people and dead bodies to their ships. From the looks of what remained of the people, the island didn't seem any better. The trio could see how bad the state of the island was in and were baffled by how it could be that way. The trees were leveled down like a hurricane had passed through them while the ground itself had huge holes and divided like something had swept through the surface. What could have done this? Sokka was the first to speak. His voice sounded sad, but also angry due to what he was saying. However, an answer didn't come, at least not yet. His sister and best friend shared the same thing on his mind as they stared at what remained of the peaceful island. They had their minds on it until it was interrupted by a shout, followed by a group of Fire Nation Navy officers. "Avatar Aang!" One of the officers shouted. Yes." Aang responded with a shuddered voice. His mind came out from its daze upon being called before turning to who called him. The same thing went for Katara and Sokka, both of whom shifted their attention to the men coming. The men wore the usual Fire Nation Navy uniform. But the one who stood out slightly was the one running before him with more haste than the others. He seemed to be a man in his mid-40s while sporting a goatee, brown-colored eyes while wearing the traditional red and black Fire Nation uniform. However, unlike the man himself, they wore red armor over themselves. A year ago, these men would have been threatening for Aang and his friends to meet. However, due to change of events, their relations had gotten better with many acceptances, especially at a time like now. It was then at that moment that Aang decided to speak up as the men slowed down before him and his bison. "Good day. I'm sure you were expecting us," he said boldly. "Yes, we were," the officer replied, sounding mildly relieved. Unknown to the man, the trio could feel he held much with him. They guessed it had to do with the circumstance of the situation and as such said nothing about it. Instead, they listened to the man as he spoke. "We're so glad you're here," he said politely. "The Admiral sent us to escort you to his tent. Do you mind?" "No. Please take me to him," Aang answered assuredly. The officer nodded in obedience to the Avatar. He then ordered his men to help the Avatar and his companions get down, though they didn't need it, before escorting them with the same soldiers. Thr walk from that moment on was quiet as the trio went through one of the paths just in time to see more sides of the horror on the island. The feeling of despair could be felt in the air at each passing second. The reason for this was due to sight of multiple tents set up as well as the sight of survivors. The group could hear children crying as their mothers comforted them while the few men were being treated with large gashes on their bodies. What could have done all this? Aang asked suddenly. He held the look of pity and sympathy upon passing the survivors of the tragedy. Something did. The senior officer answered. His expression held much boldness though with a pity of sympathy as he continued. We received warning smokes from island before dawn. Sadly by the time we got here, whatever that did this was long gone. Aang hummed. He tried to think of what could have thought of this destruction and why. Unfortunately, his mind could not come up with what it could be. Maybe it was a spirit. Katara suggested. Maybe it is, the officer replied. But then again that isn't in my place to think of. I'm not the one allowed to speak on it except the Admiral. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. Aang said assuredly. Huh? The officer said confused. In the start of the talk, he had been looking forward with a face of sympathy and worry on his face. However, his expression changed as he turned to his side only to see the Avatar's reassuring small smile. I wonder, how can he be smiling in such a situation like this? The officer wondered in his mind. Here he was, side by side with the most powerful being in the entire world, who by the way is a kid. He was aware that this kid had gone through much than anyone knew and so didn't have any doubt or irritation towards him. Rather, he smiled back a bit at the Avatar and nodded. Of course. As soon as that was said, the SCRT continued quietly. Aang and the Water Tribe siblings remained quiet again as they observed Fire Nation tents occupied with medics and others assisting the survivors. The Avatar would have brought up questions about them but his mind never reached to that as he and his company soon found themselves standing before a huge tent which had the Fire Nation insignia proudly above the entrance. My superior is inside. The officer informed them. His mood had changed to something firm, even when he turned to the Avatar and his company. We'll be guarding here. Please go in. Aang nodded in response. He knew there was no other reason for him, his girlfriend and best friend to stay outside, and as such went inside. Once that happened, the trio were greeted to the sight of the tent inside, where they could see candle lights lit up and the familiar red color that dominated everywhere. They also caught sight of the man in Fire Nation black and red armor, sitting behind a table with a large insignia of the Fire Nation behind him. He didn't seem to notice Aang's presence until he looked from his work and came into eye contact of the powerful teen. Avatar Aang. He expressed in mild tone of gratefulness. His tone was something not too surprising to see, being the fact that the Fire Nation has grown to respect the Avatar. In fact this became more obvious as the officer stood from his seat upon seeing the trio approaching and then doing his nation's signature hand greeting. It's an honor to have you here, Great One. He said humbly. Thank you. Aang replied. Once the greeting had been made, the trio made it to their respective seats. Aang sat the middle, before the man, Katara sat by Aang's left and Sokka sat by his right. For the moment, the scene seemed fine until Sokka took the second to whisper at Aang's ear. He does know Katara and I are here, right? He asked. Sokka. Aang hushed at his friend surprised and angry. Aang's hushed outburst came as a bit of a surprise. It caught Katara's attention, as well as the officer, who calmly saw the Avatar about to speak but decided to interrupt. It's fine, Avatar, I do not mind. What? Aang and Sokka responded surprised. You heard them? Katara asked, also surprised. Not really. But I can read lips. The officer replied calmly. While his tone was normal, he surprisingly chuckled at the three with a pleasant smile. But of course it caught the trio by surprise and became something of the past as the man stood again and greeted the Water Tribe siblings. It's a great experience having the two mightiest siblings of the Southern Water Tribe, he said calmly. I am Admiral Kazuki of the Fire Nation Naval. I apologize for not greeting you at first. You must understand that things are not of the best conditions right now. It's fine. Thank you, Sokka said back. He felt a bit taken aback by the man's attitude, especially due to the fact that he was a Fire Nation admiral. Admiral Kazuki, on the other hand, saw nothing wrong with the trio. While it was true that the Fire Nation had been hustled to the trio in the days of the war, especially with the deceased Admiral Zhao, he never saw much against the other nations. In fact, he might have shared his thoughts if not that he put the thought away and sat down on his chair, ready to change the subject. He did this with a swift change of his mood which set the trio to know what was coming. I wish we could meet on better terms. The Admiral said boldly, however, we have a very big problem that the Fire Nation can't solve alone. We know. Aang replied in the same manner. I expected such. The Fire Lord holds you in high favor. The Admiral complimented. Thank you. Aang said back. But I think I should be honest and say that he didn't tell us the detail. We wish to know what happened in this town. Whatever it is, we want to help these people. Of course. The Admiral nodded. The time had come and it seemed the Admiral would be the one to speak. But before doing so, he gulped down some spit while keeping a straightforward look before finally speaking. As you are aware, this island is a mixed culture island of the three nations that has strived in trade in complete unity. Sadly, tragedy struck when an unusual creature was reported to appear in the early hours of today. Early hours of today? Aang asked abruptly. Aang's nature surprised everyone as it caught their attention. Katara, Sokka and the Admiral were now facing the boy, with the latter raising a curious eyebrow as he answered. Yes, early hours. To be precise, it was before dawn. No way. Aang stammered. His eyes grew mildly wide as he lay back on his chair with a strange feeling over his body. I felt something strange happen that time, he said in revelation. What do you mean, Aang? Katara asked. She had a worried tone in her voice and even kept her worried eyes on her boyfriend, who she could see was having a hard time contemplating what was going on. I'm not sure. Aang admitted honestly. He could still feel something strange on his shoulders but yet couldn't figure it out. But upon turning to his girlfriend's worried eyes, he decided to change his tone and sit back up to face the officer. I'm sorry I can't give the information you need. Maybe I'll be able to solve this if I'm able to talk with one of the survivors. Is that possible? The Admiral nodded instantly. It is. He answered. In fact, there's one man that survived the creature's killing in close combat with it. I can take you to him right now. That would be good, sir. Sokka said. Like the others, he too was covered in the mystery and wanted to find things out. Okay. Follow me. The Admiral replied. At the time, the trio were on their sit until the Admiral stood up. Once that happened, they stood from their respective sit and followed the man. There was no conversion between them during the time, especially when they were joined by the guards. In fact, the group remained quiet until they arrived at a small red tent with more open ventilation. However, before entering the tent, the guards were positioned to stay out by the Admiral. He ordered them by his own words before opening the tent for the Avatar and the Water Tribe siblings to enter. There, they saw a man lying on a man-made bed while a woman sat next to him on a wooden stool, cleaning his nasty wounds. Oh my! Katara gasped horrifically. She was right to do so. The reason was due to the man before them having huge burns on his chest, legs and arms, as well as large nasty scar that went across his left arm, his chest and across his face. He was just being treated by the woman when the Admiral drew closer and tapped the woman's shoulder, getting her attention. I'm sorry, but is it okay if we talked with him? he asked. At first, the woman seemed puzzled to do so. She knew the admiral due to his uniform but knew her duty wasn't over yet. But her thought changed when her eyes became locked on the avatar, standing with two water tribe teenagers. She clearly didn't know what was going on but understand why she had to leave, as she then nodded to the admiral before walking out of the tent, leaving the man to his unexpected visitors. Just then, the man spoke. "So you're the avatar, huh?" he asked sarcastically. "Nice seeing you came on time." "Wait, are you being sarcastic?" Sokka asked. "Yes, I am." The man yelled angrily. He held a visible hatred towards to the avatar with tear eyes as he continued. "Where were you? We were being slaughtered by that monster." "That's enough." The admiral yelled angrily. "No." The outburst was a shock to everyone, including Aang. The bald-head kid lowered his head as he felt his heart tighten upon hearing those words from the man. He knew somehow that it wasn't his fault, but that couldn't keep him from feeling some guilt about it. He even began to feel more pain until Sokka suddenly took a step forward, before Katara could, and yelled at the guy. "It's not Aang's fault." "Of course it is. He's the Avatar." "Yeah, we got the news, genius." Sokka yelled back. Ever since the war ended, Aang has been working his butt off to satisfy everyone and make sure there's peace all around. So if you can help us so we can stop this thing that did this to you, then that would be great. Sokka. Katara scowled her brother. What? He had to know. Sokka said back at her sister. In truth, Sokka had the right to do so. He didn't like how Aang was being treated for something he didn't know. The same thing was felt by Katara, who deeply might have done the same. She didn't like his attitude though, but could understand how he felt. Fortunately, his attitude didn't anger Aang as he placed his hand assuredly at his friend, who then calmed down upon seeing his face. Meanwhile, the scarred man watched everything unfold from his position. It didn't mean that he had a change of mind, but it was enough to bring him to calm down. I'm sorry, Avatar. He apologized. It's fine. Aang assured him. Now that the man apologized, things seemed to be of a different light. The trio could still see that the man held much against Aang though, but decided not to bring it up. Instead, Aang took the initiative to walk forward and greet him in the formal hand gesture of the Fire Nation. Please, we need your help. He started by saying. We don't know what happened here. You were the one who survived the frontal attack against the monster, so I ask pleasantly if you could tell us of the ordeal so we can stop this from ever happening again. Is that so? The man asked. His tone against the Avatar had changed just to be replaced with a sad tone. If you do not know, I'm paralyzed. He said unexpectedly. That monster took my family and good friends like they were nothing. If it weren't for a water bender arriving at the shores and healing my wounds, I would be dead. Right now I'm being treated so I can be taken to the Northern Water Tribe to have their healers help with my paralyzed body. I'm so sorry. Sokka apologized. His tone against the man had changed to that of sympathy. He felt really bad for the man, with the same going for Aang and Katara, who both could do nothing but stare shockingly at the man. The man might have noticed their attitude by the silence as he shook his only movable part of his body, which was his head. No, it's okay. I shall tell you of my experience. Thank you. Aang said. The Avatar's words were taken in well as the man sighed. He could still remember everything that happened even before finally narrating it. It was at the morning of dawn. He started saying. Not many of the villagers were up, but the traders were up and getting ready for the usual market. I'm a fisherman and a firebender and was with a friend when it happened when the creature appeared. I've seen massive sea creatures both in person and on pictures, but never have I seen something so evil. He stood on. He. Sokka questioned. Hold on. Are you saying you know it's a guy? It seems like it. Now can I continue? Yeah, well ow. Sokka winced as he held his arm. His sister, on the other hand, held a small glare at her brother. Keep quiet. Once that was done, the man continued. Like I was saying, the creature stood on two massive legs, had 4 huge arms and red bloody eyes that frightened us just by the sight of him looking at you. I remember it having some kind of armor all over him and vicious teeth so sharp I'm sure it can put down a dragon. At first, we were frozen in fear upon it, especially when it grabbed a woman and asked her where he was. But of course the woman was scared and not long someone stood up to him. Unfortunately, that brave man didn't make it to speak again. The creature simply laughed before sending the back of his hand against him, crushing him through the market stalls like he was nothing. You should have seen it. It was awful to see. But before we knew it, we were fighting for our lives. Wow, that's, Aang tried to say. Horrible. The man said and scoffed. You don't even know the half of it. The creature tore through us like we were nothing but animals, waiting for it to slaughter us. We tried to fight back, even to the point of putting our lives in danger, but it just wasn't enough. It shot strange fire from its mouth, used its massive claws to tear through our men and women, tore the trees off the ground with a roar and ruptured the very earth with its feet and hands. I at first stayed out of this by helping my family get to safety, but that creature it saw us and those who tried to run and came after us. The man's voice now began to crack. We thought we could escape it. But it just appeared in a second before us with its smiling grin. I will never forget what it said. It said, do you really think you can cheat your death? Aang, Katara and Sokka were horrified to hear that. They had their full attention on the man, with deep dread being felt all over their body, as he spoke. Admiral Kazuki, on the other hand, kept quiet with hand at his chin while possessing a mild disturbed look on his face as he too listened. He and the others could see how difficult the narration was becoming on the man and felt instantly sorry for him, even as he continued. But I couldn't have let the monster get away with it. The man gulped his spit. Before I knew it, I and the few male villagers charged at the monster, shooting fire and earth in the best of our abilities. I knew I well thought I wouldn't make it, but I fought anyway for my family to escape. However, that creature, that DMN monster, he didn't let that happen. Before we could take in what it could do, his hand changed at some kind of sword which he then used to cut my friends down like they were air. The pain, it was just too much. I couldn't take the way he treated them. So I charged at him, ready to release all my anger at him. But it didn't work out. The man added with a sad tone. He simply turned at me and breathed out what looked like green fire at me, sending me to the ground. And just when I thought I would die, the flames stopped. As the monster approached me, saying, I'm going to keep you alive, but only so you can deal with the guilt of these women and children's death. I was confused by what it meant until I looked forward and saw the fleeing women and children, amongst them my children and wife, sitting together, unable to move for some reason but still able to cry out for you to save them, Avatar. Aang winced instantly. But that doesn't matter now, not anymore. The man added. His voice began to crack as his memory went deeply on that moment. He felt useless. He didn't care that his pain and tears were visible on his face, as it felt too much to contain. I couldn't save them. He cried out loud. My own family, I couldn't save them. I mustered the strength to charge at the beast despite my body pain, but it didn't matter. Before I knew what would happen, the creature's hand became a sword that it used to strike across my body. Why am I even still alive? I failed them. He finally couldn't take it anymore. The pain, the memory, and the present came into clash on him and caused him to cry so bitterly that it could be heard from outside the tent. Aang could understand his pain, with the same going for Katara and Sokka, as they watched silently with sad faces as the man wept more. Just then, Aang took the first step to comfort the man. He knew his pain and knew how it felt to feel helpless in an awful situation. However, the young Avatar didn't get the chance due to Admiral Kazuki, who held his hand at the Avatar to stop. Then, before he could respond, he signaled his men to come in, with the woman from before rushing inside. Keep him at bay. We do not want anything bad to happen to him again. The Admiral ordered. In first sight, the situation seemed like a cry of lost. But the Admiral knew how PTSD could form and as such was met with swift compliance from his men. He watched for a second how they and the woman went to the man's aid, though with mild protest, before turning to the Avatar and the Water Tribe siblings. While Katara had to look away, with Sokka leading her out, Aang had his eyes casted to the ground. His face displayed that of pity and guilt as he could hear the man's screams and crying still going on. He knew he wasn't in the man's present position, but he couldn't help but experience some flashback to his shock about those he knew dead. His mind would have gone onwards with it if it weren't for him feeling a soft hand on his shoulder. At first, Aang felt lost at who touched him as he stood there. But his confusion ceased as he looked at his back only to see the comforting face of the Admiral. "I think it's time we leave," said the senior officer. "We have a case to deal with." "Okay." Aang nodded. After seeing the negative effect of the experience had on a villager, Avatar and the others met outside the tent. They felt bad for what happened and decided to use that as the drive to get them find the cause of the incident. As for the man who they met, more detail about his survival was revealed. The Admiral believed that the reason the man survived long enough to get help was probably because the sword's tip cut through the surface of his body, doing much damage but still enough for him to live till help arrive. However, the evidence or chance for this to be the case was lacking and as such was left behind. Later on, Team Avatar and the Admiral decided to conduct a search around the island. The Admiral had some of his soldiers grouped into two, one following Sokka and the other following Katara while Aang went on his own. The young Avatar decided to search on his own as he believed he could cover more ground and fend for himself better if the creature showed up. So with that, the search began throughout the island. So far, the search started out well and organized as intended. The soldiers with Katara and Sokka were able to find more areas of the creature's destruction while Aang took to the air by his staff-turned-glider to search for anything odd. He used that time to also think of what the creature was and if it indeed was a spirit. But also during that time he realized how much he missed Momo, his flying lemur, who for the time being was with Toph in her earthbending school. As time went on, Aang concluded his search and decided to mediate. He had spent the last hour looking over the island in search of the creature or anything that could lead to its whereabouts but found nothing. As such, he decided to find an alternative to his search. "I should find a place to meditate," Aang thought to himself. "Maybe I can find him through that." Hence, his decision had been made as he shifted directions. He flew around a bit with his glider before landing on a hill that served some view of the rest of the island. There, he sat in his usual nomad style and closed his eyes, patiently being in tune with nature and his surroundings. Just then, Aang became sucked in something unexpected. His body could feel a dark aura forming around him like a fog coming in fast and taking everything in its reach. He couldn't understand what this could be, neither could he contemplate the malicious laughter and the sounds of large stomping that resembled that of something coming closer towards him. Suddenly, the Avatar gasped before snapping his eyes open. He expected to find himself back on the hill, able to see the sun in the sky like before. However, he found himself wrong as he saw the sky looked much disrupted and unlike anything he ever saw. The skies had red cracks crossing each other as darkness and lightning shot out from what remained of it in a scary fashion. "Where am I?" Aang asked him, looking confused. "Aang, Avatar Aang?" questioned a female voice. Aang heard the voice but felt confused at it. He hadn't heard the voice before but yet could recognize it from the tip of his heard. Unfortunately, when he turned to the source of the voice, he was horrified at what he saw. Before him, Aang saw two familiar-looking faces. The first on his left was Avatar Roku and the one at the other was a Water Tribe girl possessing a tomboyish look, with both of them tied around a big pole by green shining ropes. "Avatar Roku?" Aang questioned, looking confused. He could see the Avatar looking defeated with his Fire Nation clothes in shreds, while the girl at his right looked the same. "Avatar Korra?" "Wait, how do I know that name?" he asked. Looking at the moment, none of it made sense. Aang wanted answers and even thought about asking further when he felt a tremor coming behind him. It made feel confused and curious until he turned back to the cause, only to then inwardly wish he hadn't. Before the avatar, the world looked to be way out of balance. It was beyond what the avatar could ever imagine or think of, especially with what he was seeing. He saw chaos and complete disorder rampage in the form of massive volcanoes forming from ground and shooting lava and ashes into the ground and the earth, while tornadoes went about destroying any living thing of nature in sight. Unfortunately, even with all that, it didn't make it worse. In fact, the thing that added to it was the sight of numerous monsters from the spirit world flooding into the air with dark auras around them. Truly, there was no doubt in the avatar's mind that things couldn't be worse. Sadly, this didn't seem to be the case, as he had a mmm from a familiar voice. It sounded recognizable and yet so close that it caught Aang's attention to look down with bafflement. Toph! He shouted in shock. True to his eyes, it was indeed Toph on the ground. However, unlike the last he saw of her, the girl lay totally defeated and beaten with wound marks and scratches on her clothes. The girl looked so bad and helpless that Aang was just about to help her when he looked forward and found that Toph was not alone. In fact, from the defeated earthbender, Katara, Sokka, their father, Zuko, Azula, the Swamp People, Suki, the Kyoshi warriors and others he considered allies lay on the ground either dead or defeated. No, what could have done this? Aang asked, horrified at what he was seeing. Aang began to feel like he had enough of what he was seeing. He could literally feel his emotion getting the best of him as he stared at his friends and wonder how they ended up like this. The avatar couldn't take his mind from them though, not until he felt the ground shake again. Usually, at this point, Aang wouldn't mind the tremor. He had gotten too used to it and also didn't want to see what was worse. However, his curiosity got the better of him due to the ground feeling like two huge feet were heading his way. It began coming closer and closer until the avatar had no other choice than to turn back and see the source of the shaking. Over the years, Aang had met strange-looking creatures. He met the lion turtle, a giant creature that sounds exactly as it, and the face-stealer spirit that caused one of his past life pain. However, having met all that and more, nothing could have prepared Aang for the creature standing before him. Aang stood a few feet while the creature looked down on him. He didn't know what to call the creature due to its strange and ugly appearance. It stood 30 feet on the ground, had 4 arms and wore blue battle armor that covered most of its body, had 4 red eyes and a grin so evil that Aang could feel darkness from it. If Aang was any honest to himself, he would admit to be scared. Fortunately, his fear didn't hold near to the rage he began to feel upon resting his eyes on the creature. In fact, he felt so angry that his face changed to a complete snarl as he took a bold step forward. "You did this, didn't you?" Aang yelled in demand. "Tell me why. They didn't do anything to you." At this point, Aang could snap easily if he wanted. His back was against those who he loved while his front was against the creature who stood between the defeated-looking Roku and Korra. By the look on his face, it was clear the avatar wanted answers and to take down the creature if it came to it. However, his question was only met with a chuckle as the creature laid its 2 upper arms on top of the poles, incinerating Roku and Korra in green fire. "No!" Aang screamed. His voice cried out in a mix of horror and shock, part of it being that he didn't expect the creature to end the 2 avatars. Just then, Aang decided he had enough. He tightened his fist while a look of anger and hatred overcame his face before he took a step forward. He had his right side at the creature before sending his tightened fist forward, intending to shoot out fire. However, he immediately became shocked when he found he couldn't bend. "What's the matter, boy?" asked the creature sarcastically. Its first words were clear mockery to the avatar, who now stood shocked at his hands raised at his face. But before he could speak, the creature spoke again as it sent the back of its right upper hand against him. "Your world is dead," it yelled. By the looks of it, the creature seemed right. Unfortunately, Aang had no time to react as the creature's large arm sent him flying into the air. It had a mighty blow on the avatar as it sent him screaming through the air before hitting the ground, tumbling before coming to a stop. But just when he was about to get up he felt the ground shake like something just landed on the earth. "Do you see that, human?" the creature asked. It still stood in its giant form as it looked down on the avatar. At the same time, Aang didn't need to look to know who was speaking to him. He felt curious and confused by what the creature said with the thought that it wouldn't be good. But rather let it intimidate him, he grunted and boldly stood up with an angry glare at it. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Aang had seen enough and felt anger towards the being. His eyes showed how serious he was but held a bit of confusion to what the creature meant. However, whether this intimidated the creature in any way went unnoticed as it pointed one of its large fingers at the avatar's back. It was even confusing at first until Aang looked back, only to then gasped. The place Aang stood looked different entirely. He didn't know if this was due to the creature's attack early or something else, but he did feel a lot. The reason for all this was because right before him he could see a devastated field with many avatars, both past and future, lying on the ground. Aang felt so baffled and shocked that he could only feel himself freeze in place while tears rushed from his eyes. "Now do you see?" the creature asked. It had the sound of pride in the way it spoke, partly because it enjoyed watching the avatar's feeling. Just then, the creature decided it had enough. It could enjoy seeing the boy's reaction for as long as it wanted, but it decided to end him while in shock. So with that, it raised its large foot above the boy and watched as he turned to him with a look of fear in his eyes. "Now go join then," it said evilly. It then followed its statement by sending its large foot down on the avatar, which was then followed by screaming. "Aw!" Aang screamed. The avatar could feel his heart beating as darkness covered his sight. He was unaware of what was happening until he forced his eyes open just to find himself sitting back on the hill with the sun still in the skies. The entire scene looked entirely different from the devastation he saw earlier, and so was followed by a feeling of relief. "It wasn't real," Aang said with a relieved voice. "What wasn't real?" asked a male voice. The voice felt very close as it sounded curious. In fact, it was so close that when Aang turned in surprise his face met closely with the owner's face. He shrieked in surprise and lost his balance on the hill. As a result, he tumbled all the way down to the bottom before finally sitting up with a groan and a bit of dizzy. Who was that?" he asked, rubbing his head. "That would be me," answered the voice. Prior to this, Aang would have thought he had seen enough surprises. He was the Avatar and seen a lot of crazy and unexplainable things that only a few people in the world would know. But then his intuition on that changed upon looking up and seeing a teenager flying in the air. "You're flying?" Yeah, I am." "Awesome, right?" the male said amused. When Aang first laid eyes on the person, he barely had time to look over him. However, with the time now, he got a clear look of the person floating in the air like nothing. He had gray-colored skin, wore a strange black clothing with green stripes, A/N, a jumpsuit, that connected to his shoulders and then to his chest where a hourglass-looking device rested and a purple cloak which was rested down to reveal his face. "So I guess this must be awkward, huh?" "My bad," the being said and smiled sheepishly. Yeah," Aang replied, feeling unsure. Aang had seen a lot, but the being before him seemed different. He didn't feel fearful of him as he stood up while the being landed on the ground before him. Once both of them had their eyes properly at each other, Aang made the first move. "Are you a spirit?" he asked. "Spirit?" questioned the being. He stared confused at the avatar before smirking and waving his hand at him. "Nah. Right now I'm just a sorcerer demon thing." "Demon?" Now it was Aang's turn to question him. "I'm sorry, but what's that?" "It's nothing," the person disputed. "Okay," Aang replied, unsure. He looked at the person before him with a skeptic look due to a feeling that he was hiding something. But instead of ponder on that, he took a second to clear his mind and look a bit demanding at the person. So do you mind telling me who you are? You sent me down a hill. First that was you. The person pointed out. And second, I'm currently Dark Mare. Dark Mare? Aang said. I can't say I haven't heard weirder names. Ha. Good one. Dark Mare replied. So far his attitude had been good towards the Avatar. He possessed a dark aura that Aang seemed to notice as they both were facing each other. Aang thought then to be forward with the teenager again but found himself not doing so as the strange teen spoke again, this time serious. I'm sorry if this is sudden but I need your help. He said urgently, I think you'll be interested. My help? With what? Aang asked, mildly curious. Nefarious. Dark Mare answered. He's the creature that you saw in that vision. You saw that? How? Aang questioned. He became a bit wide-eyed upon the revelation and the shock that this strange teen had seen his vision. It then dawned on him that Dark Mare might be dangerous, hence he clutched his fist and glared sharply at him. Oh that. Dark Mare said hesitant. He seemed nervous at first and scratched the back of his head while still looking at Aang. Well you see, in this form I have a punch of magical powers and one of them allows me to go into a person's mind anytime I want. But that doesn't matter now. Aang glared with a scowling look. How does that not matter? You were in my head. He said in his mind. Deeply, Aang had much nerve against Dark Mare. He didn't like the intrusion the creature had done, nor did he seem like he could trust him. In fact, he would have spoken about it if not that he changed his attitude upon noticing the sudden serious look on his face. Besides, we have to hurry. Dark Mare stated. Your world is in huge trouble if we don't act fast. Just then, Dark Mare did something unexpected. He sent his hand over to the strange hourglass Aang saw on his chest and pressed on it. On that moment, the strange being became engulfed in green light before it died down, revealing a young normal boy wearing black shirt underneath a green jacket and wearing blue pants. Let's start over, said the boy. He possessed a bright smile on his face before the Avatar before reaching his hand out to him. Hi, I'm BEN10 and you are? Aang. Aang said back. Avatar Aang. By the way things are, Aang didn't know if he should act against the boy. One moment the boy was strange and the next he stood as a normal boy who looked somehow similar to his other form. He knew he could go ahead and be seemingly opposed to him, but chose not to as he accepted his open hand and allowed him to shake his and his own before letting go. Well, Aang, our worlds is in trouble and it's up to us to stop it. Ben said confidently. The time had been strange until now coming to this point. Aang didn't know what to think about Ben or his sudden transformation. But he changed any negative feeling towards him as a bold look came over his face as glimpses of his vision came into mind. You don't have to tell me twice. He replied. Okay. So will you help me? Ben asked. Yes. Aang nodded. Until now neither of them knew each other well. They both met in an awkward and strange way which has now led to what would be a great alliance against Nefarious. Now it can only be hoped that two of the multiverse's most powerful teenagers would be able to defeat the biggest threat that ever lived. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 6. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and Man of Cartoons on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.